Everybody, and welcome back. Music. There you go.
I can just grab my bag.
All right. First of all, it's great to be back. I'm looking forward to continuing our classes. It's been a long break. It's been almost a month, I think, since I was here last. It's been a long time. I was away a few weeks ago. I was in Costa Rica with a group of teenage men, and it was a lot of fun. You can imagine what the conversations were like. They were very specific, 2 or 3 topics the whole entire time. Girls, and more girls. That's the whole thing. Nothing, no real depth there. All right. There is we're in the middle of a series called The 10 Paths to God. And if you haven't heard them, let me know, and I'll try to find you some of the classes maybe. But these are conversations that help us build a deeper understanding, appreciation of our faith, a deeper appreciation of our own identity, and hopefully we walk away a bit more inspired as Jews. Tonight's class was sponsored, although I don't remember the name of the sponsorship because it's on my phone and it's over there. But Jessica's going to read it right now, so we have it. It's L'ilui Nishma Yitzchak Tzvi ben Nehemiah. The neshama should have an aliyah. Okay, so all the learning tonight should go for that neshama. Okay, so the conversation tonight is about love as justice, or tzedakah. Now, when we think about charity, okay, we think about handouts, or some of us may just think about it in terms of like welfare or government programs, depending on what part of the world your family's from. And the truth is that the Jewish concept is definitely a capitalistic system, which is awesome because it gives you the right to go ahead and make your own money. But on the other hand, the problem with a capitalistic system is that it's not equitable. It doesn't necessarily distribute itself equally. And there are some people in that system that have way more money than other people. And while it's nice for those people that are able to figure out how to, go ahead and rip it. Where are those people who are able to figure out how to make money within that system? It works great for them. So, well, what do we do with all the people that haven't figured it out? What do we do with all the people in the world who are unfortunately less fortunate?
You educate them.
So you could. Education is one way of doing it, but education doesn't always equal, equal outcome or opportunity. There are some very intelligent people in the world who are very poor. Now, you could say that welfare programs might be the way to do it, and put the whole entire onus on the government. Or you kill a capitalistic system like some socialist countries have tried to do. That never really solves the problem of wealth. It just creates more poverty, except for a small select group of people that become wealthier and wealthier, like Putin, Vladimir Putin and his friends. But what a capitalistic system in America is missing is a society that partners with it, because just to go ahead and give everything to the government isn't going to make things better either. Right? If I just go ahead and say, well, the government will determine, how we're going to give out and distribute money, does that make things better or worse? Well, I would argue that most of the time, whenever the government gets involved in programs and systems, it makes it worse, not better. Should there be government programs? 100%. But that doesn't mean that it should exclude your participation in the actual process of being someone who feels a sense of responsibility for those people that are less in need. And by the way, we're seeing this concept is going to get worse in time. As AI and newer systems are developed, people with higher levels of wealth will be in the position to constantly amplify their wealth in like 100x in the next 10 years. I'm saying that in terms of like not just inflationary terms, because I believe that's going to be a contributing factor. We know that people in the New York area are earning more money today than they were 20 years ago, but that same money is worth way less than anything 20 years ago. Look at housing in the last 20 years has gone up by like 200%, in New York alone, or 300% depending on the area that you're in. Salaries have not gone up by 200 or 300%, but you're certainly earning more with less. And now with interest rates up, it causes a perfect storm, which is why I believe rates are going to come down very soon. But we talk about the system, we talk about justice, we talk about responsibility as individuals and specifically here as Jews What is your responsibility? Do you have a sense of responsibility? You see that same poor person every single day, whether it's synagogue or the corner of the street, is just whatever. He's the bum. I'll give him $1 and that's it. I'm done. Where is my responsibility? Do I have a responsibility? Say no, it's not my responsibility. I called 911. The guy is he's sleeping in the street, which is illegal. He should be arrested. Let him go to some home where they can figure it out for him. What is my responsibility? And how do I distribute that sense of justice, love? Because the word tzedakah is a very difficult word to translate. How would you translate it into English? Is it charity? Is it justice? Tzedakah. And if that is true, if it's justice and charity, then how is charity and justice different than kindness, than chesed? Where do I draw the line between what kindness is, kindness giving to chesed for somebody, and doing tzedakah? How do I understand what those things are? Yeah, I don't like that. Whenever someone tells me you gotta have a good heart, I say, okay, that's very nice, but like one good heart attack and it's over. So like, it can't be just having a good heart. It's more than just, you see, it's not just about being good, and I'll tell you why that definition bothers me. When people tell me, and I heard this a lot from my mom, I'm a good person, which she is, I try to remind her, and I'm reminding all of us, including myself, that to be good means to be proactively working on being better. And therefore, if you're doing nothing today to be better than yesterday, then all you're doing is avoiding doing bad. And if you're avoiding doing bad and you think that makes you good, you are mistaken, my friends. That does not make you good. That just makes you someone who's avoiding evil. To be good means I am proactively working on being more, better, greater. So how are you proactively working on being good? Okay, well, what does that look like?
Working on yourself.
I understand that. Those are good words, good adjectives. Working on yourself.
You against you.
Okay, yes, but practically speaking, what does that really look like? And how many of us are really doing it? I don't know. I don't know you. I don't know how you're doing. I don't know how you're doing it or whatever it is. I'm just saying, yeah. Right. Okay, good. Good. Right. Right, 100%. Anything to any extreme in Judaism is bad. We don't want anything, no extremes. We want that healthy median. But the problem is that all the definitions are very subjective, right? I'll work on myself. I'll do self-reflection. Well, what's the standard there? Where's the totem pole? What are you measuring yourself against? I could also sit there and say, oh, I want to be a better person. Does that make me a better person? No. Well, I say, I'm going to work on being a better person. Well, what am I going to do? I'll determine what I need to do. No. If the whole thing is subjective, then you're not working on being a better person. You're just figuring out a way of dealing with your own psychological neuroses and making yourself feel good about it. That doesn't make you a better human being.
Actions.
Okay, well, again, actions based on what?
Energy and kinetic energy.
Yeah, yes, good, true. Yes, energy is a good thing. Putting out good, bringing back good to a little 100%. But what's the standard? What's the standard you're using for that energy?
Effort.
Yes. What?
You stand up to the Torah, you can benchmark yourself against the Avod, against the Avod, against...
Okay, good, now we're getting somewhere. Okay, so the standards can't be something that I subjectively decide as being these are arbitrary, subjective things that I'm determining to be my standards. They have to be based on something. When it comes to morality, it comes to development, it comes to growth. Is that thing recording? I keep getting like paranoid. Okay, fine. So like, did I hit record? Shoots. Gotta start over again. It can't be subjective. It has to be some kind of outside, secondary source that we're looking at as a measuring stick that says, hey, this is it. So I'm going to say, as Jews, we've always looked at this system called the Torah itself as a system, as a metric that allows us to say, we want to be good, I want to be great.
And the GPS towards them.
Exactly. I want to have a spiritual guide that allows me to express the best version of myself. So these sources here are not my own. They're based on Rabbi Sacks. These are sources that were put together after he passed away, based on a lot of his material. And what I'd like to do is I'd like to read this with you and go through it and see if we could walk away with some deeper insight into what it means to be someone who thinks deeply about chesed who thinks deeply about justice. Now, I'd imagine if I was to do a survey here, everyone would agree that charity, chesed, are like the most important, like part of the most important, like core values that a Jew should have. No one here would say, yeah, it's definitely not in the top 5. Definitely part of the top 5. Everyone says chesed. Everyone says charity. What's that? I don't know. I'm not saying. I don't know if it's the first, or I don't know. I don't know if it's the first thing. I don't think it's the first thing. I think there are other things that come before giving. I think that knowledge comes before giving. Learning comes before giving. I think there are other things. I'm just saying, like it's not. It's not just giving. All right. Anyway, okay. Talmud says as follows. Look at source number 1 with me. Our masters taught. It is related. It is related to King Munbaz, king of the. My gosh. The Adiabin in the 1st century CE who converted to Judaism. Actually, it's machloket if King Munbaz was a person or if he was a demon. It doesn't really matter. During the years of his of scarcity, he spent all of his own treasures and treasures of his fathers on charity. His brother and other members of his family reproached him. Quote, your fathers stored away treasures, adding to the treasures of their fathers, and you squander them. He replied, my father stored away for the world below, while I am storing away for the world above. My father stored away in the place where the hand of other can prevail, while I have stored away in the place where the hand of the other cannot prevail. My father stored away something that produces no fruit, while I have stored away something that produces fruit. My father stored away treasures of money, while I stored away the treasures of souls. Was he a fanatic? Would you drain the storage houses to feed the poor? So how far should he have gone? What's your responsibility?
I think you need to think about like practically what you need to do for yourself in order to sustain yourself and move forward. So
Okay.
that you can continue to give and prosper moving forward as well. So if you give everything now, that's great that you're helping people now in the moment, but what happens down the line?
Right.
Okay, good. So how far down the line do we have to worry about?
It's a Band-Aid.
How far down the line do we have to worry about? Yeah.
And from what I understand, you shouldn't give more than a fifth of your worth to.
Awesome. So Lafi Halakha, 20%. Oh, God bless you. Thank you very much. Minimum, at the very least, we could all agree that 20% of what's given should be. 20% of what we have should be given. Right? That is the maximum, by the way, that a Jew's allowed to go ahead and distribute. 10% is the minimum, and 20% is the maximum. Okay? You can't give more than a fifth of your money away. So, you have people like Bill Gates and Warren Buffett who are pledging to give away like 98% of their money. Who determines where that money goes to?
Their foundation employees.
And the foundation, and what are they? What's the criteria they use to go ahead and determine where that money goes? So, what Bill Gates Foundation, I think they gave the most money away. How does the Bill Gates Foundation determine where money should go?
Based on their own.
Basically, the criteria the Bill Gates Foundation has created is one that can help global issues. So, malaria. We're going to cure malaria around the world, and that's going to be the issue. Now, is that my responsibility as an American? Is that my responsibility? Am I supposed to worry about malaria around the world? What? Do I have to go ahead and worry about the kid that's starving in Africa? Does that make me a bad Jew if I don't? How far do I have to go? If I don't have to give all my money away, it's only 20%. Maybe worrying about the whole planet is a mistake. What are the boundaries? Are there boundaries? Yeah.
Well, I heard about this, but it depends on the teachings of which rabbi.
Sure.
Which book.
Right.
I don't know the names of the books. So one of them said, you have to first take care of Israel, and then you could take care of like all the other Jews around the world. And then there's another rabbi that says you have to take care of your brothers and sisters, your community first, and then expand.
Right. So whenever you'll hear a machloket, like two different teachings, right, a disagreement, There's what we call the popular opinion and the not so popular opinion, or the majority opinion and the minority opinion. The majority opinion says that your responsibility first goes to the Aniyei Ircha, the poor people of your city first. And therefore, before I start worrying about, saving that awesome kid in Africa that needs money, my first primary responsibility are the people of my city. And that means if I live in New York City, I have to first worry about the poor people within a 10-block radius, 20-block radius, 2-mile radius, whatever the number is. As I keep going out, then I go out of my city, into my state, the neighboring states, countries, and I keep moving outward. And therefore, as an American, my responsibility goes first to Canada and Mexico before it goes to Africa. Why is that? Does Canada and Africa need my money? I mean, Canada and Mexico need my money? What's that? I understand that, but answer my question. My question is, well, they're not poor countries.
Building community, like straight.
Okay. When I go ahead and I start like Munbaz did over here, this is what I think he was trying to do. So sorry about my cough. It just came out of nowhere. I did not cough a whole day. Why am I coughing? When Munbaz gave away all his money, he was trying to end poverty. Where? First at home. Why? What happens when you live in a society where every single person in that society is cared for? Is being poor a bad thing? Okay, so yes, there are negative effects of poverty. The more impoverished you are, the more likely you'll do drugs, the more likely you'll commit crimes. There's a certain amount of wealth, by the way. If you're earning less than $87,000 a year in New York, and you're a parent with 2 kids, you're considered like poor. Okay, you're considered poor, and that poverty has all the negative effects of poverty, as having no money and whatever it is, doesn't matter. From 0 to 87, that's the same. It's all the same spectrum. And when you get out of that $87,000 range, you start going up by $10,000 into $97,000. The likelihood of your kid committing crime starts going lower and lower and lower and lower. However, there's a bell curve. When you get to the other side of the spectrum, the more money you have, having too much money also has a negative effect. The same negative effects of being poor. Having too much money also leads to crime, poverty, drugs, and so all kinds of things, as much as having no money. So there's that happy medium in the middle of how much money, and that medium, by the way, is about between $350,000 and $450,000. Once you have more than that, with 2 kids or more, your kids are at risk, depending on your lifestyle and education and so on and so forth. Right? There's a spectrum. The reason why my responsibility is to my neighboring countries first is because if I shore up the needy in and around my immediate vicinity, as a I'll call it the Canadian, American, the Mexican bloc, we have greater power of fixing the next, South America. We're stronger together. I need to uplift the people in poverty, and then figure out a way of elevating them with me, my values, to help take what we've learned about charity and bring it to the next country. But what's crazy is that if we understand the system, which we'll see hopefully soon, we actually have the power of ending poverty on planet Earth. Do you know that? There is millions of pounds of corn every year that is set on fire, not to get into the market. That there are millions of pounds of all kinds of produce that are purged so that it doesn't destroy commodity prices every single year. We have more than enough food on the planet just to feed double the amount of people that are living on the planet today. Is it Ratatouille? Anyway. I don't know what's going on anyway.
But I think that we're doing a better job with making sure less people are starving in America compared to like 15 years ago.
Yeah.
There's a lot of different organizations. The reason why I say that is because today with my organization, we actually went to a food pantry and we were like loading bags with food, and every half an hour, a different truck was coming in
Awesome.
from different businesses donating bread and all different.
100%. But that's America's greatness has always been its chesed. By the way, this country is blessed because this country has always cared for the poor around the world to an extreme. For example, did you know that, I love this statistic because it's so sad and scary at the same time, that 93% of all charity given by Jews in America do not go to Jewish causes? Isn't that crazy? 93% of all charity given by Jews does not go to Jewish causes. Now, I'm not saying that all you should be supporting is Jewish, but 93% of our money should not be going to Jewish causes. That's crazy, right? Especially when you have so many Jews in need, right? Education. Think about what Jewish education would look like if we used 50% of that money and dumped it back into Jewish education. The guy that started Nike, Michael, I think his name is Michael Knight, he donated what?
Phil Knight.
What's his name?
Phil
Phil
Knight.
Nick?
Phil Knight.
Oh, Phil Knight. That's it. It was Phil Knight. Thank you. Phil Knight. Michael Knight is from Knight Rider. Phil Knight. Phil Knight donated $400 million to Harvard University for a scholarship fund, okay, to help poor people that can't afford full tuition at Harvard. How many poor people do you think apply to Harvard? Now, how much money does Harvard already have in endowments? Hundreds of billions. Yes. Yeah, a crazy number. Yeah.
I also think there's something to be said about living in the United States of America, all of these freedoms, and you're continuing to donate whatever causes you want, and like having that freedom, keeping that intact, you're more likely to donate your wealth by being to choose.
I'm not saying you shouldn't have the ability to choose. You should choose, but how are we educating people to donate responsibly? You know what I'm saying? Like, of course you should choose to give. I'm not telling you where to give. I would tell you just to give all your money to me. You know what I'm saying? And I'll make sure it gets used in the right places. But that's not fair. Everyone should have the choice. But what's my responsibility? That's what we're talking about over here. We're talking about love as justice. If you want to be someone who's really, interested in, oh, thank you so much, Auntie.
It's bad. I'm suffering from this.
Thank you so much. Tisha Bash? I'm just joking around with you. Thank you so much. Oh, really? All right. So anyway, you know what I'm saying? Like, of course it should be, but like, you should have the right to choose to give responsibly. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah.
Sorry, I'm assuming Israel is an exception to this proximity rule.
No, I don't think so. I don't think it's an exception. Not at all. I think I'm not saying. I'm saying we should be giving to Israel also, because it's family. I'm not saying we should not be giving to Israel. But if
I should give to Mexico before Israel?
No, you should be giving to New York before you give to Israel. Yeah, your primary tzedakah should go to the people who need here first, and then before it goes there. Now, I'm not saying we should be supporting Israel. Yeah, if there are poor, there are plenty of poor people in New York City, in the tri-state area, that are really living under the poverty line.
Yes.
If you go to vegan, how many people are getting Shabbat food every week? Tomei Shabbat. There's so many people that are in need over here. Why don't we figure out? It's not. You see, again, you're thinking like a businessman. I never said we should not be giving money to Africa. All I'm saying is that we have a responsibility first, and I'm not saying how much to give. Right? I didn't say you should give 20% of your money to your tzedakah here. I'm saying that when we're thinking about distributing our, yeah.
I think you need to have this conversation with our current president, because he's giving so much to Ukraine.
I got this conversation with a lot of people. Yeah.
Good
job, Joe.
Go ahead.
No, I'm just saying. I love all this.
Where did 20% come from? There's a halakha that says you can't give away more than 20% of your money. You cannot give 20% of your money away to charity. It's a Jewish law. It comes from the book of Jewish law. It's called the Shulchan Aruch. Yeah.
So, Rabbi, it's not the urgency of the situation. It's the distance.
I'm not saying we should be again.
No, that's like
I just want to make it clear. The conversation I'm trying to have is to try to get you thinking a bit differently about when you think about charity and giving. How are you thinking about it? Is it just about what makes you feel good, or is it about responsibility? Because that's what I'm trying to get at. What's your responsibility?
This is yours.
Oh,
This is for
is
you.
that honey? Wow. Again, like the point that can someone actually just read the next source so we can move on a little bit? I was gonna make
The 15th century Jewish diplomat and scholar Don Isaac of Ravenel,
Yes.
chancellor to King Ferdinand and Queen Isabella of Castile, was once asked by the king how much he owed. He named a certain sum, but surely, the king said, you own much more than that. You ask me, replied, how much I owe. The property I have, I do not own. Your Majesty may seize it from me tomorrow, and thus I am separate guardian. The sum I mention is what I have given away in charity. That merit alone, neither you nor any earthly power can take away from me. We own what we are willing to share.
Meaning what's truly yours is what you give away. It's not what you have. Oh, it's mine. I determine what I give away. That's not true. What's really yours is a famous Hasidic story of a father who was trying to teach his son a lesson in charity. And he was trying to teach him the idea of maaser, that there's a mitzvah of actually giving 10% of your money to charity. So the boy comes back and says, Dad, I just made $10. He says, okay, great. He says, well, how much money are you giving to charity? He says, I'm giving $1 to charity. He's like, how much money do you have? He said, I have $9. I have $9. Which the father says, no, you don't. All you have is $1. The money that you gave away, that's yours. Everything else, that could come, go tomorrow, I have no idea. Right? What's truly yours is what you give away. What you have in your bank is not yours. Read number 3 to somebody, please. Maimonides.
There are 8 degrees of charity, one higher than the other. The highest degree, exceeded by none, is that of one who assists a poor person by providing him with a gift, or a loan, or by accepting him into a business partnership, or by helping him find employment. In a word, by putting him in a situation where he can dispense with other people's aids. A step below this is one who gives alms to the needy in such a way that the giver does not know to whom he gives. The recipient does not know from who he takes. This exemplifies doing a good deed for its own sake. One example was the hall of secrecy in the temple, where the righteous would place their gift clandestinely, and where poor people from noble families could come and secretly help themselves to aid. Close to this is putting money in a charity box. One step lower is where the giver knows to whom he gives, but the poor person does not know from whom he receives. Thus the great sages would go and secretly put money into poor people's doorways. A step lower is when the poor person knows from whom he is taking, but the giver does not know to whom he is giving. Thus the great sages would tie coins in their scarves, which they would fling over their shoulders, so that the poor could help themselves without suffering shame. Lower than this is where someone gives the poor person a gift before he asks. Lower still is one who gives only after the poor person asks. Lower than this is one who gives less than is fitting, but does so with a friendly countenance. The lowest level is one who gives ungraciously.
How many of us fall into the lowest category of giving? Oh, here's a quarter. Get out of my way. I gotta go. I don't have anything for you. Come back tomorrow. You know. But what's the highest?
I have a question.
Go for it.
I know, like, when a Jew asks you for money, you're obligated to give.
You're not obligated to give.
Okay, so that's the wrong premise.
Yeah, you're never obligated. And the reason why we're not obligated to give halachic perspective is because the guy could be a liar. I don't know if he's a true beggar. I don't know what he truly needs.
Okay.
Even for a small
No,
amount.
no. You're obligated to give two people. What's it called? There is a concept in Api Kabbalah that in the month of Adar, and specifically on Purim, that you should not turn anyone away. There's a Hasidic concept that anyone who you see, you should give them something, but that's not halakha. There's a difference. It's a nice midot chasidut, but it's not a sanctioned Jewish principle law.
Okay. I was gonna ask, like, if you give someone something, and they ask the next day, like, are you still obligated to keep giving them?
You're not obligated to give them, but if you according to the principle goes like this. Let's suppose you have the ability of giving one person $100, which will be a meaningful donation to that person, or you give 100 people $1, which is it's nothing, right? What does $1 do for a person? But it's 100 people. Which one's better? Give the $100 that makes a meaningful difference in one person's life, or give $1 which has zero impact on 100 people's lives? What would you do?
$1.
So the reason why you give the $1 to 100 people according to Jewish law is why? So you become a giver. Because ultimately we want you to help flex your giving muscle. And the more you give and give and give and give and give, the more you're in a position where you're actually caring for the other, the more likely when the time comes, you'll give more again. Why? Because is it your responsibility to finish the job? Is your responsibility to make sure that person is like completely 100% taken care of? No, it's not. But even though the highest level of charity is what? Giving the guy the job, right? That's the ultimate. But that's the highest level, and if you can't do that, at the very least, you have a responsibility to go ahead and care for them on some level. But are you there to go ahead and put them up and buy them a house and give? No, you're not. Okay, what does the Torah say? The Torah says as follows. This is from Devarim. It says, if there is a poor man among your brother in any of the towns of the land that the Lord God has given to you, do not be hearted or tight-fisted toward your poor brother. Rather, be open-handed and freely lend him whatever he needs. Give generously to him, and do so without a grudging heart. Then, because of this, the Lord your God will bless you in all your work and in everything you put your hand to. There will always be poor people in the land. And therefore, I command you to be open-handed toward your brother and towards the poor and the needy in the land. This is a famous discussion with Rabbi Akiva and a Roman general. And he says that the Roman general says, God created man in a perfect state, because we're created in God's image. Why bother doing circumcision? And he came out and he says, well, what's better, this stalk of wheat or the cake? And the Roman says, this cake is better. He says, because the cake is practical. The stalk of wheat has no real value. Same Roman says to the rabbi, why did God create poor people on the planet? And Rabbi Akiva's answer was to give humanity the ability of caring for them. Because God wants you, my friends, as his partner. But there's something here we just read which is very profound. I've spoken about this all the time, and I want you to see the source. Hashem says over here that if you go ahead and you care for the people, the poor, what does he promise you? What do you get in return?
Good karma.
He's saying much more than that. He says God, your God will bless you in all your work and everything you put your hand into. Success is very much tied into a person's ability to care for others. Mazal, your fortune, is tied into your ability to care for others.
That's why they subscribe to the 10 Commandments. Always be a giver. Always honor your parents. Always honor.
Honoring your parents has nothing to do with giving.
It is.
No.
You gotta be a giver.
Dude, absolutely not.
Let's try not to interrupt.
Yeah. I don't think so. I don't think that's the way. I think that's a oversimplistic way of understanding it. Perkei Avot. This is Rabbi Tarfon. He says, you are you're responsible. It is not your responsibility to finish the work, but neither are you free to desist from it. Meaning, you got to put in some kind of effort. You don't have to finish the job, but start the jobs. Do something. Can't do nothing. Talmud Bavli says as follows. This is Rabbi Dostai, son of Rabbi Yanai taught. Consider the difference between the Holy One and a king of flesh and blood. If a man brings a present to king, it may or may not be accepted. Even if it is accepted, it remains doubtful whether the man will be admitted into the king's presence. Not so with Holy One. A person who gives even a small coin to a beggar is deemed worthy of being admitted into behold the divine presence, as is written, I, through charity, shall behold your face. And Rabbi Elazar used to give a coin to a poor person and only then say his prayers, because it is said, it is written, I, through charity, shall behold your face. This is why, by the way, some people have a minhag, a custom, of giving tzedakah when they're davening, when you're praying in the morning. Right? When you're saying, before you're going to say Az Yashir, it's a mitzvah, it's an idea of giving tzedakah there, just being mindful that, I want God to accept my tefillah. Yeah. Should you raise your hand?
What's the difference between tzedakah for people in need versus tzedakah synagogue or Jewish school or something that you're directly benefiting from? Are there hierarchies of where you should be giving?
Well, that's a great question. The answer is yes, there are. And it's, again, how many of us have really sat down and really thought deeply about, well, what are my responsibilities? To whom am I giving my money? Have I really come up with a strategy on how I'm dispersing my funds? And the answer is we don't. We really just give money to wherever it suits us most. The things that we like the most, the things that are the most, whatever it is. I know communities that they do a very bad job of taking care of their own people. And we raise money from other communities to take care of people in that community. It's a mistake. People in that community have money, they're just not dispersing it to the right places. It's a problem. Talmud Bavli says as follows. There are 10 strong things in the world. Rock is strong, but iron breaks it. Iron is strong, but fire melts it. Fire is strong, but water extinguishes it. Water is strong, but the clouds carry it. The clouds are strong, but the wind drives them. The wind is strong, but man withstands it. Man is strong, but fear weakens him. Fear is strong, but wine removes it. Wine is strong, but sleep overcomes it. Sleep is strong, but death stands over it. What is stronger than death? You know what's stronger than death? Acts of charity. It was written, Tzedakah delivers, Tzedakah tatzil mimavet. Right? The most powerful thing that exists in the world as far as a force, spiritual force, is the act of giving. Why? Because you become like God. There's a fascinating feature in the geography of the land of Israel. It contains 2 seas, the Sea of the Galileo and the Dead Sea. I love this idea. The Sea of the Galileo is full of life, fish, birds, vegetation. The Dead Sea, as the name implies, is not, yet they are fed by the same river, the Jordan. The difference is that the Sea of the Galileo receives water at one end and gives on the other end. The Dead Sea receives but does not give. Jordan ends there. To receive but not to give is in Jewish geography as well as Jewish psychology simply not life. To live is to give. It's called the Dead Sea because it does not give. It's the only body of water that only takes. Is that interesting? The only body of water that only takes does not have any life in it. Because if all you are is a taker, you, my friend, are part of the zombie apocalypse. Dead man walking. The Heal a Fractured World. If you have not read The Heal a Fractured World by Rabbi Jonathan Sacks, you totally should. My good friend Jamie Callan, who read that book and started an organization called Justify after reading it, and forever has changed his world and the world of all people that participate in his programs. And this is what he says. This is what Rabbi Sacks says. He says the word tzedakah is untranslatable because it joins together 2 concepts that in other languages are opposites, namely charity and justice. Suppose, for example, that I give someone $100. Either he is entitled to it or he is not. If he is, then my act is a form of justice. If he is not, it's an act of charity. In English, as with land terms, right, a gesture of charity cannot be an act of justice, nor can an act of justice be described as charity. Tzedakah means both. It arises from Judaism's theological insistence on the difference between possession and ownership. Ultimately, all things are owned by God, creator of the world. What we possess, we do not own. We merely hold it in trust for God. The clear statement of this is the provision in Vayikra. The land must not be sold permanently because the land is mine. You are merely strangers and temporarily residents in relation to me. If there was absolute ownership, there would be a difference between justice, we are bound to give others, and charity, which we give others out of generosity. The former would be legally enforceable duty. The latter, at best, the prompting of benevolence or sympathy. In Judaism, because we are not owners of our property, but guardians of God, on God's behalf, we are bound by the conditions of trusteeship. One of which is that we are part of what we have with others in need. What would be regarded as charity in other legal systems is in Judaism a strict requirement of law and can, if necessary, be enforced by the courts. That's right. According to the law, we can force him to give tzedakah. He's not giving in tzedakah. We don't have those courts today. We can't do it. But if we had a Jewish Beit Din that could actually act as a law enforcer, someone has millions and millions of dollars not giving to charity, we could actually force them to give to charity. Right? So why can I do that? Why does Judaism have a system that legally allows me to go into someone's bank account and compel him to give money to charity?
Because we consider it justice. So it's a justice system.
It's not just charity, it's also justice. You want to add to that?
I just wanted to add that, like, when God gave a person money, like, it's not limited. So
Right.
it's supposed to
Distribute 100%. That's exactly what he just said over here. Let's keep going. Number 10. The nearest English equivalent to tzedakah is the phrase that came into existence alongside the idea of a welfare state, namely social justice. Right? Behind both is the idea that no one should be without the basic requirements of existence, and that those who have more than they need must share some of that surplus with those who have less. This is the fundamental. This is fundamental to the kind of society that the Israelites charged with creating, namely one in which everyone has basic right to a dignified life with equal worth as a citizen in the covenantal community under the sovereignty of God. That's the world we want to create. By the way, it's possible. God created a world where we can be partners in bringing justice to the planet. We can fix all things. Do you know what gets in the way?
Greed.
What?
Greed.
Yeah. It's you get in the way. We get in the way. It's ego, it's greed, narcissism, it's the constant feeling that you might be missing out, FOMO. It's all those things. But you know what that all that comes from? It comes from a lack of trust. Because you may believe in God, but you don't trust God. You don't know how to let go.
Rabbi, what about the other form of trust? A lot of organizations give 100% of the money, they may take 40% just for administrative fees, or a lot of people come in and ask money and you don't really know what they're using the money for.
100%.
And that's a real issue.
That's
nowadays.
definitely an issue, 100%. That's why you should be giving to organizations with people that you trust, and organizations that are going to be transparent about how they're spending their money.
So is there such a?
Of course there is.
Meaning, no, I'm not talking about organizations that tell you the truth, but some kind of like source you can go to that says, okay, this organization appropriates X amount of money towards the organization.
It's called charity now.
Charity now,
Okay.
yeah.
I don't know how many organizations are there, but that's the number.
Any charity that you are interested in, all you got to do is ask them for a copy of their 990s, which is a breakdown of all their expenses. It's public information. Every not-for-profit, all you got to do is you go to whatever New York State. If you're looking in New York, you find the charity you want. Go to charity, look up, get their EIN number, and you'll have it up. You'll have every single one of their 990s. 990 will have a breakdown of every single penny that's being spent. It's a legal requirement that every organization shares, a breakdown of their their expenses.
What's considered a normal?
That's a whole separate conversation. What's normal, but I'm just saying it's there, so you could do your due diligence, find out, what's being spent and how it's being spent. Okay. Number 11. There's nothing inevitable or divinely willed about the social and economic inequality. Judaism rejects an almost universal belief in antiquity, and throughout the Middle Ages, the hierarchy of division of class are written into the structure of society. We don't believe in caste systems. What human beings have created, human beings can rectify. It followed that everyone should be provided with the basic requirement of a dignified life. The sage inferred from this the biblical phrase, be open-handed and free lend him whatever he needs. We read that earlier. Needs included food, housing, basic furniture, and if necessary, funds to pay for a wedding. To this end, each community organized tzedakah funds, contributions to which could be coerced by communal sanctions. I started something called the Chatan Fund, Chatan and Kala Fund, about 5 years ago, and we've given money to all kinds of Chatanim what's it called, for their weddings, helping them with whatever it is, and so on and so forth. My wife has an organization that she runs, and there are 4 girls in that house that just got engaged in the last 4 weeks, and 2 of them have no parents, and so she just found someone in our community, in Woodmere, who's basically found them a hall for free, another caterer for free, and we're doing a whole entire wedding for this couple that has nothing, and that's totally like by the community supporting them and providing them and so on and so forth. So there are definitely ways of giving back in a way that's meaningful. All you got to do is proactively looking for opportunities to give back. Judaism represents a highly distinctive approach to the idea of equality, namely, that is best served not by equality of income or of wealth, nor even opportunity, nor is it sufficient that we each have equal standing before God at times of prayer, because we have Kohanim, Yisrael, Levi, they're all different. And before the law, in case of dispute, society must ensure equal dignity. The Hebrew phrase, kavod habriot, human honor, to each of its members. That is the core of what Judaism wants. How are you creating this concept of kibud habriot? Yeah.
When it comes to, there's someone who becomes impoverished, right? I mean, they were a business person, you're required to give them up to what they were used to before in order to conduct their business.
Yeah.
In the event of a wedding, if they're part of a community that has a certain level of wedding that's the expectation, are you then required to pay for that level of wedding? If you give, or
It's
is
their
it just
personal standards, not the communal standard.
it's personal standard?
Yeah, if you live in like Beverly Hills and everyone's earning $50 million, and and you're just living there renting, and like, well, we have to throw a $2 million wedding.
Right.
No, it doesn't like that. It's individual standard.
Okay. Is there a risk of like other people being embarrassed because they can't do it? It's not, you don't consider that.
Yeah. Yeah.
What if originally they had?
Yes, in the situation, let's say they were living in Beverly Hills, and now they lost all their money, and it was very recent. Then, as a community, we would have a responsibility to throw them a wedding to help them in a way of their standard.
Their previous standard before they found
Correct.
When does it change from it was to what their new standard is?
That's a great question. I don't have a good answer for you. Yeah.
But there's some consideration if they can't put it all on Bitcoin, right? Like there's some.
Oh, 100%. We're not talking about putting it. Yeah. We're not talking about being irresponsible. Just here's $2 million. Have a nice way. No. The way we did this wedding is that we went directly to the vendors. The money went to the vendors directly. We went to the hall, to the catering, to the florist, to the flop.
But all I'm saying is that the principle of tzedakah is not an incentive for people to callously like gamble.
No, that's not at all. Not at all. You're right. Yeah, 100%. That's so funny. Like whenever we're talking about concepts and ideas, we often think about like the worst case scenarios. Like most of that doesn't. We don't have to worry about the worst case scenarios. Yeah.
I think like the majority of us might have this question, but we say like, when you say 10-20%, right? But that's deducting what? Because then you said like if you were earning like 80,000 and then you have 2 kids, and you're married, then you're in poverty. So is that person supposed to give still 10%? Like
Yeah.
they're using everything for
100%.
their livelihood, or like
Everyone gives
what's
10%. If they're making $10, I'm making $10%.
No, right. So let's say their check, right, after taxes is 80,000. So they're supposed to by law give 16,000.
So after taxes, what you're giving that.
So right. So after taxes.
After taxes, you netted 80,000, right? And you have to give $8,000 a year to charity. Now, the way you should what you can do with that money is as follows. Okay, I don't know if I want this part recorded, but
You want to.
10% of after like your bills,
Yeah.
pay all your expenses, and then you give 10% of what's left over.
Right, but like, what is considered expenses? I think that's like.
So it's not after all of your expenses. It's not after all your expenses. It's whatever you take in at the end of the year. Take 10% of that and you put it into a charity account. You don't have to distribute all of it at once. Okay. What I did was I created a charity account for all my tzedakah. Okay. Put my 10% in there, and then I distribute it slowly. I don't have to give it all at once. Some of that money was used for different parts of my kids' education. Okay.
Your kids' education?
Yes, my kids' education.
So you're allowed
My
to.
kids are poor.
Charity
Charity starts at home, right? So I started an account, and I started putting a charity account there. The mitzvah of maaser, by the way, is just separating your money first. That's the first mitzvah, by the way. The first mitzvah is the separation of the money, taking the money and then designating it for. Then there's another mitzvah after dispensing it, but it doesn't say anyone can dispense it all at once. Yeah.
Let's say a portion of your money happens to, by obligation, goes somewhere, for example, taxes, and let's say a portion of that happens to go to charity, like legitimately. Is that at all considered my money anymore, like my charity, or once it's gone, it's not mine anymore?
What do you mean? I don't understand your question.
Like it's going to charity via a third party that I didn't necessarily intend.
Oh, like your taxes.
Yeah. Like
I
if
don't-
1% of that goes to charity,
That's a great
is that
question. I
mine?
don't know. I need to understand how that works exactly, because it's forced. It's possible. It's possible. I don't know. It's a good question. Yeah.
What about deferred compensation? Instead of me working an extra 2 hours, I put 2 hours of my time towards efforts towards charity. How is that? Can you account for that as part of like 100%?
That's a good question. Yeah. So Rav Moshe Feinstein says that actually. He says that not only do you have a responsibility to go ahead and give your money, you actually have to give your time as well. And you should give 10% of your time to charity, and charity organizations as well, which is in addition to the 10% that you're giving. What's that? All right. Anyway, let's just keep going. Did we do 12 yet? Okay, number 14. Justice as charity is a religious act, not merely a social one. We worship God not only in prayer, but by also how we act in this world. The 19th century biblical commentary of Tzvi Hirsch, Mecklenburg, gave a striking interpretation of Bereshit. This is what he said. He said that the chapter sets out creation as a series of stages in which God says, "Let there be." And then there is, and God saw that it was good. Mecklenburg notes that the word "that," right, in the biblical Hebrew, more often means because. God saw not that it was good, but because He is good. To be good is to do good. God created the world so that others could enjoy it. Goodness is not an attribute of the soul, but a way of acting and creating happiness for other people, mitigating their distress, removing even a fraction of the world's pain, like getting me some tea with honey. We worship God spiritually by helping His creations physically. This is why when the Beit HaMikdash was destroyed and the sacrifice came to an end, tzedakah became a substitute. So let's go over 4 concepts we spoke about tonight. The ethics of materialism, that is a material wealth that comes from God and does not really belong to us. Responsibility, that every one of us has a responsibility to be social activists and heal our fractured world by addressing injustice in our society, including poverty. That indignity of human beings, injustice and poverty is an example of injustice, is a compromise on dignity of the human being. But tzedakah should address that by protecting the dignity of every member of our society. Tzedakah is a vehicle for our spiritual and moral growth. We become good people and can connect to God, doing acts of kindness, and this is why the Torah requires us to fulfill mitzvah of tzedakah. I hope that you all walked away with a little bit of a different appreciation for what the word tzedakah means. And more importantly, I really hope that you walk away kind of thinking deeply, more profoundly about, well, what does it mean to be a true giver in this world? Because we all do it, we all give on some level, but we often do it in a very immature kind of way. And now that you're thinking grown adults, you have a unique opportunity to really grow and develop yourself, like we spoke about earlier. The way we do that is by upgrading our understanding of our responsibilities. Not just learning about it, but then hopefully proactively being involved in doing it. I'm confident that when a small group of people band together to do something good in the world, nothing on the planet can get in their way. So I give you all a bracha, that you're able to take in these ideas. You can recognize that you have the power to do good, affect your community. You have the ability of changing the mitzvah, the reality of our world, by finding a little bit of space in your hearts to become bigger, greater givers. Thank you so much for coming, everybody. There's Hashem will continue the conversation next week. Questions, comments? Have a good day, everybody.